The Story of the Believers. I was reading in the National Geographic the other day about an anthropologist who was attempting to work out the territorial borders of an Amazonian tribe known as the Flecheros. Flecha, meaning arrow in Spanish, they got their name as each time someone approached their area of the jungle, they opened fire. But much as anthropologists used to dream of making first contact with undiscovered tribes, the aim this time was to establish a protection zone around them, so that they need never be exposed to a world which would destroy their way of life. I could only support this noble intention, because I was in Colombia the last time a tribe was cast out of the jungle onto the merciless modern world. The Inichua, or the Believers, as they came to be known, had been living peacefully in the rainforest for thousands of years, until fighting in the never-ending Colombian Civil War had forced them off their land. Spears and blowpipes aren't much match for semi-automatic weapons, after all. I remember seeing the first of them arrive in Bogota. They walked barefoot through the streets, quite oblivious to the traffic, clad only in loincloths and carrying bundles of papaya and yams. There wasn't the trace of a wrinkle or worry line on their faces, and though they had little cause to smile after all, when they did, they revealed sharp white teeth that had never known decay on a hunter-gatherer diet. And while they might have been expected to be a bit nervous at the wonders of civilization, none of them had so much as seen a plastic bag before, let alone electricity or cars or skyscrapers. Instead, they bore their exile rather stoically, the expressions of deep calm betraying their sadness only by a gentle twinkle in the eye. They were to be seen making camp at night in the parks, huddling around small fires and singing melancholy songs. They survived by roasting whatever vegetables they could gather from the floors of the markets, and, as we deduced from the bones found around their fires, they also hunted stray cats. A few nights later, on TV, an anthropologist by the name of Luis Gonzalez, who had done field research with the Inichua, was given a 45-second soundbite on the news. Gonzalez was a heavy-set man with a bushy beard, and he was clearly upset. He clamoured for the government to take immediate action to protect this uniquely vulnerable people. The Inichua, he said, were known amongst academics as the Believers, because their language was unique in that it contained no words for to lie or to deceive. In their natural jungle habitat, they were apparently accustomed to taking each other at their word. When one of them yelled, "Jaguar!" they would all clamber up a tree. And when someone else cried, "Hey, bee's nest!" they all came running for the honey. So how, Gonzalez asked, could they possibly be expected to survive and prosper in our tricky, deceitful society? But Colombia was then a deeply troubled country. There was a civil war with two different guerrilla groups, paramilitaries out of control, and the autonomy of the cities themselves were threatened by powerful drug cartels. The fate of the Believers was therefore hardly thought to be a matter of much consequence, and the authorities just let human nature solve the problem for them. It came as no surprise that the women were the first to go. Suddenly they were seen dressed up in provocative clothing and poorly applied makeup, standing on street corners under the watchful eyes of the local pimps. The Inichua men were soon to be found working 18 hours a day on construction sites across the city in return for a handful of bananas. Other Believers were arguably luckier when they were rounded up by the paramilitaries and guerrilla groups and taken back to the jungles to fight in the Civil War. They were known to be fierce warriors, as they fought tooth and nail for what they believed to be a noble cause: law and order, or freedom and justice, depending which side got to them first. A couple of months after most of the Inichua had disappeared from the streets, I was in a bar one evening and saw a news presenter on the TV who could barely keep the smile off his face as he announced that a believer had been arrested carrying 10 kilos of cocaine in the airport. When asked why he had done it, the poor soul had apparently replied, "They told me it was sugar." I heard someone cough rather violently to my side, and I realized that just a few meters away was the anthropologist, Luis Gonzalez. I ordered us both another beer, and pulling up a stool, I said, "If only they'd listened to you."
They had no money, no vote, and no influence. Why would someone have listened to me?
Gonzalez said without even turning around. He drank the beer, put in front of him without question though, and then faced me with a weary expression.
But the funny thing, when I came back from living with the Inichua years ago, I thought I would have a hard time to readjust to modern life. But you know what? I saw the believers are everywhere. Just look around you. They're praying in the churches, marching in armies, queuing in department stores. Everywhere you look, there are people believing in almost everything they're told. The only reason they don't make it onto the news is because they don't dress in loincloths.
And with that, Gonzalez stood up, knocking over his stool, and staggered out of the bar. And if you believe the story you just heard, well, you believe anything.